Hi, my name is Hava Eden Tobian. I am from Dallas, Texas. That's where I make most of my work now. That's also where I was born and raised. And I am the winner of the second ASLUT quarterly. One of the biggest themes of my bodies of work, regardless of what media I choose to use in, is this idea of more is more and all this really intense texture. Texture in the multitude of mediums that I use within one painting. Things are 3D on a 2D objects. Things, when you look at them, feel like they would have different smells and colors and textures to it. Even when I'm making video pieces, I do want that to come through, even if it's less of a tangible object. So that's something that's a theme throughout my body of work that I think a lot about, is this like more is more texturally. In this show particularly, I thought a lot about these collective memories that I've had with my family, like community and collective memory in a really familial sense, because it's the most concrete way that I can think about how I view a lot of the imagery references that I use in my paintings. In my painting Bach.com, where it's all these butterflies with the feet and these like hairy butterflies, and the green monster on front of it is these folklore stories that my mom would tell me and all my aunties would tell me, and just like people that I probably have never even met would tell each other of these creatures that would come into your dreams to signify other sorts of things that would happen into your day-to-day life. My mom, if she ever wanted me to do something specific, she would tell it to me in this spiritual, dreamlike sense. So she would tell me that she had a dream about something, and that would be the reason why I would have to do something. But then in return, if she didn't want me to hang out with somebody, but I told her I had a dream that they saved me, or I had a dream that they were in this booth and there was a light around them or a ring around them, she would change her tune about it. She'd be like, oh yeah, you can go hang out with them now. And so having some of these paintings be around collaging of both the imagery of something that I collectively share with people that are in my family and people that I've never met, alongside my own personal dreamscapes, which would be like the butterflies that are hairy. That kind of collaging feels like a common theme throughout the separate paintings in this show. Something that I think about a lot that was said to me once is that the most like intense reaction I can feel about something is when I see something cute. And that's something that I think about in everything that I'm collecting and everything that I'm making, is that there's like no other feeling in the world that I feel that's like as intense as when I see something cute. And that feels really important in the color choices that I make, and it also feels important in the objects that I pick up and the things that I choose. Like if I'm drawing these creatures and monsters that are memories of like a folklore that family would tell me, I still like reimagine them in like a really sweet and cute way, because that's how I want them to exist in my own life, even though that might not be like the common perception of it. The collaging of all these ornate and decorative pieces that are both things that I produce on my own and also mass produce in consumable objects. I'll be collecting these small toys. I'll be collecting things that like really feel sweet and cute to me. I'll collect things that match my aesthetic, or they'll be gifted to me, or someone will be like, this is just like a heap of trash, and maybe you'll find something that you'll like out of that. That exists on my paintings alongside like me getting plaster and painting with the plaster, so that there's like all these other elements of texture besides these 3D objects, alongside like images that I either take myself or that are commercial, they're consumer products, or they're things that are marketed towards me. So all these things exist together on my paintings. When I think about how me myself have developed a taste and how I've developed an aesthetic, how I've developed that aesthetic that then translates into a body of work, I'm thinking about those things also collaged, even if they're not so concrete. Like when you go into a store and something's curated for you, even though there's many different aesthetics in a store, and you can like walk down one aisle and you'll get whatever fashion trend, but then you can also walk down something else and be like, oh, this is something that feels nostalgic. Like that store is still curated to be of a market and of that market of that time. And so when I'm thinking about that and when I'm thinking about my paintings, I'm thinking about what is marketed to me of the many times that I've existed and the many different times of my life that I've tried to grab onto trends and aesthetics that felt important to me and what actually stuck, and how those things can coincide and become its own taste-making experience of how I want to continue a body of work. I talked about before this type of like decoration and ornate objects and why I would like collage something and how I pick out those things to collage. I think about that as like a really big reflection of how I go about the world and how I go about these consumer products. Things are marketed towards me as like both someone that has a background outside of the US, someone that is gendered as a woman and perceived as a woman and genders myself as a woman, but how those things are different depending on where I move my body around the world. The specific things that are marketed towards me as someone that's Middle Eastern living in Dallas, Texas, are extremely not specific that they don't get marketed towards anyone else, but read differently than maybe somebody else. Or they read the same because I'm a woman and someone else might be a woman, or someone else might be read as a woman or perceived in that way. But there's also all these other factors that everybody individually has that then reflects on the ways that they attach it to themselves as an aesthetic or taste. And so when I decorate my pieces, I am thinking about that, and I am thinking about how I, in my own experience and how I, in my own acceptance of what's marketed towards me, decides to make bodies of work, but also decides how I place those decisions in my bodies of work.